This show is so significant because it's the first time that Australians have had an opportunity to hear, I guess, the two sides of this story. In a way, the view from the ship, coming out of Cook's journal and Banks's journal, and the view from the shore, from the descendants of those people who were on the coast in 1770. We knew that visitors probably had a sense that they already knew the story, so we had to find a way that we could introduce something new into the story and present it in a way that they might not have expected, but also in a way that they can still understand. And so the device we came up with was to literally create the east coast of Australia. When you enter the exhibition, the first thing that will strike you are these recreation of 3 waterspouts, which the voyagers on the Endeavour experienced soon after they saw land at Point Hicks. For people at Point Hicks, they were a warning of what things to come. Then as you progress through the space, you'll literally follow the coastline of Eastern Australia. And dotted along like that coastline are stories from 9 communities we've worked with, all the way from Point Hicks, through Kamay Botany Bay, through 1770, through Warrambambiri, Endeavour River, and finally up to Possession Island at the tip of Cape York. In this, the 250th year of Cook's voyage up the coast of Australia, it was an extraordinary moment in the history of this landscape. We thought, what a great opportunity to tell one of the big stories in Australia's history. But clearly, it's a story where we need to work with Indigenous communities about getting their perspectives on that story. And this is really the first time that Australians have had the opportunity to hear many of those stories. And in each of the 9 locations we've worked, there's a slightly different story about what happened in 1770, but also the kind of later history that people connect back to that moment in our past. The Wujal Wujal driftwood pieces we've got in the show, I think, are one of the real highlights. My curatorial colleague, Shona Coyne, had the opportunity to work with the artists at Wujal Wujal.
What's on display here is a beautiful collection of artworks that artists from the Wujal Wujal community created. Wujal Wujal community are connected to the Endeavour story because, as we know, the Endeavour Voyage sailed up the east coast of Australia in 1770, and part of that journey the ship collided with the Great Barrier Reef in one point, and this reef is actually probably about 10 kilometres off the shore of Weary Bay, which is right opposite Wujal Wujal. As you can see here, there's a whole range of topics, everything from shield designs that we have over here. We've got scenes from where the ship were throwing over barrels of grog, and also this beautiful piece over here, which is actually one of my favourite pieces, where it's a coral branch that would have broken off from the reef at the time. We are just so delighted that we got a chance to work with the Banayirigi Art Centre and the artists that are there. Through the workshop, we've managed to acquire 48 of their artworks, and it's such a significant body of work. Because not only does it reflect their perspectives on the Endeavour Voyage, but it's also a great record of the amazing cultural and botanical knowledge that this community holds.
All of the objects in the show have great stories. One in particular, for me, holds both the Indigenous and the non-Indigenous side of that story. The shield made by an unknown Indigenous maker at Kamay Botany Bay in the 1930s is a terrific object. It features the landing of Cook. It also features the opening of the Harbour Bridge in the 1930s. And it also features some of the plants and animals that are distinctive to the Botany Bay region. And in representing all 3 of those sides of the story, it gives us something very special. There are so many objects in the exhibition that take us back to those moments in 1770 and link us to the people who are on that ship. My colleague Michelle Hetherington has picked out a few to tell you about.
I'm standing next to one of 6 quarter-pounder cannon that were thrown overboard from HMB Endeavour on the evening of June the 11th, 1770. The 6 cannon were those that were on deck when the ship ground on the Great Barrier Reef. It was a terrible, terrible moment for the people on board the ship. But the cannon are like little time capsules. They went overboard. They were covered by over a metre of coral by the time they were rediscovered, 1 year short of 200 years from the event. This is Captain Cook's handwritten journal of his voyage in the Endeavour from 1768 to 1771. This is again another one of those objects that connect you to Australian history so beautifully. Over 250 years old when it was first started to be written in. It bears the impress of the hand of the person who wrote it, who's long dead, but who lives still in the words that remain on the page.
In 2020, it being the 250th anniversary of that moment in 1770, Australians are more open to reconsidering how we understand what went on in 1770 and its implications today. So I think the exhibition we've done here, there's an opportunity for it to influence Australians' understanding of their past going forward. So in that sense, I think it is a really significant show and perhaps one of the most important ones we've done in our short history. I feel really humble about the stories that communities have shared with us, individuals in communities have shared with us. But I also feel proud that I think we've done justice to those stories and that we've told their stories in keeping with the way they would have wanted them told. And I feel really good that the culmination of all those stories really affects our visitors. And it can change the way people think about what Australia is and what it can be.